Hello YouTube, this is going to be a June 2019 budget Altergeist deck profile. So the main is going to be around 50, the extra is going to be around 30. So for the price of 80, you're getting something that is fairly competitive, and I know Altergeist isn't doing exceptionally well in the meta right now, but it's still a pretty viable deck, pretty strong. You can see some success with it if you take it to local, so not a price that will necessarily break the bank, and definitely something that you can both have fun with and also maybe see some success. So here is the profile, please enjoy. Start off with very standard ratios for the first three Altergeist monsters here. 3 Marionetters, 3 Multifakers, 3 Meloseeks. Budget, non-budget, you're going to be seeing these ratios here. Marionetter being the strongest normal summon. You can set Protocol or Manifestation. Protocol being a very necessary card to control the board, especially with no Solemn Strikes in a budget version. Meloseek is also a strong normal summon though, because you can go into your Link Karibo. It does attack directly to and pops a card your opponent controls, so sometimes I find myself going into battle first, popping maybe a Floodgate that my opponent controls, and then going into my my Hextias or my Link Karibos in main phase 2. And then Multifaker is really what makes this deck so powerful, because it specials from the deck. I mean, specialing from the deck is just a mechanic that is just super good. Especially with using it over and over again. I mean, every time you activate a trap, or with Manifestation, you bring it right back. With Silquidus, you bounce it to your hand, use the same one over and over. So I run 2 Silquidus, no Desires in this deck to keep it budget, but I still run 2 Silquidus. Just a very strong live bounce when you do control a Altergeist card to bounce to your hand. And I find myself needing a second one to special summon with Multifaker. And then here is the optional card, the Kun Query, which is your attack negation, your card effect negation, free body, free special summon on the field. So very standard lineup for the Altergeist monsters. No hand traps to keep it budget. For the spells, 3 Pot of Duality. I run 3. Some people run 1, some people run 2, some people run Desires instead of Duality. I like 3 because even though it can be cloggy, I like seeing the options of the excavated cards. The deck is primarily traps, so you want to be seeing as many possibilities as you can, so you don't have to top deck and hope for the right trap for the specific situation you're in. Also, the special summons aren't necessarily happening on your turn. Multifaker and being quick and Manifestation being a trap, you can always special summon during your opponent's turn. So 3 Secret Village. This was a slightly more expensive card in the past, but it's now a budget option. Locks your opponent out of spells and doesn't lock you out of spells. I don't run Imperial Order, which some may consider to be an automatic victory card. I like Secret Village a little bit better, even though Imperial Order is a very strong card. Secret Village allows you to activate your Pot of Dualities and your Scapegoat, which I do run. So Scapegoat is your link climbing tool, your 1-card Boarload. Boarload is now a budget option. I do include Boarload in this budget version because it is now a reprinted card twice. So for the trap, we'll start off with the obvious Personal Spoofing at 2, Protocol at 2, Manifestation at 2. Some people run 3 Spoofing, some people play 1 Manifestation, but I like 2 of each. Spoofing can be enough to start your entire play. I mean, if you have that Altergeist card to shuffle into the deck as cost, you can really start the whole play that you need. And trigger that Multifaker if you activated Spoofing the card itself, not just the effect. Protocol, like I said, is your continuous Solemn Strike to control the board. Also stops your Altergeist cards from being negated, so your opponent can't Veiler or do anything to stop something like a Marionetter. Manifestation is that Call of the Hunted, which also recycles Altergeist traps. So a little bit stronger than Call of the Hunted. So a lot of budget generic traps coming up. So we got 2 Breakthrough Skills. This is your replacement for something like a Solemn Strike. Definitely a budget option. So keep that in mind with these choices. Trying to keep it as budget as can be. 2 Torrential Tribute, which I do see in some non-budget versions of Altergeist. So definitely a strong way to clear the board and then set up your own board with Multifaker. And then I run 2 Dark Bribe, which may be a kind of a controversial pick. Instead of something like a Wiretap or a Magic Drain, which only stops traps or spells respectively, Dark Bribe can stop both. It does give your opponent a free draw, obviously, which is definitely a downside, but still a strong card if you use it in the right time. If you negate the specific spell or trap that is very critical to your opponent's play, your opponent really may not see it coming. If you think the draw is too detrimental to to the competition and will give your opponent an edge, you could side that out or take that out. Anyway, to keep going, two-dimensional barriers for more budget traps here. Strong card depending on the matchup. I mean, if your opponent's playing pendulums, being a pendulum player primarily, I always see from the lens of pendulums, this really shuts down something like pendulums or any kind of Xyz based deck. Because sometimes if you stop them from, if you lock them out of a summon of that specific type of card, it really shuts down the turn. 2 heavy Storm Duster for backer removal, perfect for the mirror match. And then 3 Metaverse to activate that secret village, set up your board, and then trigger your multi-faker like all these traps do. But Metaverse is great for that combo with multi-faker to set up that board. And then Solemn Warning, Solemn Judgment for the last 2 traps. No strikes, like I said, but Warning can sometimes be, enough. I mean, if you set Warning on the first turn and your opponent's going second, you negate their normal summon. That can sometimes be enough to stop their entire turn. So seriously strong card, Solemn Warning. So for the extra deck, you pretty much only need a Link Rebo and triple Hextia. But if you wanted to, you could definitely go for the Prime Banshee as well. Link Rebo is to send Meliseek to the grave. Hextia is for that spell and trap negation, also gains 8 DK. Prime Banshee specials multi-faker from the deck. So that's pretty much what you need right there for the extra deck. But because I did include that Scapegoat, I do have a Proxy Dragon here too, as well as 2 Link Spiders. So you make the Link Spider with the first goat, two goats go into Proxy Dragon, and the last one goes into Link Spider, and then you can turn those into a Link 4. So Link Climbing plays right there. But if you wanted to keep the extra deck as concise as possible and go with just these 5 monsters here, you could take out the Scapegoat materials, or Scapegoat links, and then take out Scapegoat altogether and just put in like a 3rd Breakthrough or a Fiendish Chain or any other kind of trap. So I do have a Nightmare Cerberus and a Phoenix just for good measure, just cards that you can go into whenever you feel the need. Just remember, you can't go into any of these non-Altergeist monsters if you activate multi-faker that turn, just to keep that in mind. 1 Ningirsu, which is definitely a budget card. Phoenix is really not that much of a budget card, but Ningirsu is just another option for Scapegoat and just your non-targeting destruction. Then for the boss monsters that you do go into with Scapegoat, I'm running a Topologic Bomber Dragon as well as a Borreload. So Topologic Bomber Dragon is that kind of mid-range card, $5 or $6, instead of something like a Saryuja or a Boral Sword, but it's probably a little bit better than something like a Boral Guard, so kind of in the middle there. And you can always special summon Multi-Faker to the zone that Topologic points to, and clear the board before you special summon, clear the board. And then, unfortunately, it will blow up your multi-faker, but that is, sometimes a play, and not too bad of a card. Sometimes can be useful. Topologic Bomber Dragon. Borreload, of course, is for that non-targeting, non-destruction removal of any monster. Just a seriously powerful card, Borreload, and having it in the extra deck, even though it's definitely the most expensive card of this build here, it's still probably worth it to get. Especially being reprinted. Just a strong card that can go in so many decks and really turns the game around, can turn the game around with 1 card. And then lastly for the extra deck, I do run some rank 4s just in case you do have double Marionetta on the field. I run Dweller and Cowboy. Dweller is probably the one. If you're going to run a rank 4, Castel is of course a great choice, but Dweller can really shut down the entire deck sometimes of your opponent. So Dweller is not too bad of an option at all. And Cowboy, because this deck is intended to be taken to locals, this is supposed to be for budget players taking Altergeist to locals. Cowboy is so you can beat time, and just if you're in that third game of the match, and you want to knock down their life points by a little bit so you can win the last game, that is sometimes an option. So that is the Altergeist budget deck profile for June 2019. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one.